Something wicked this way comes. I was looking up, I was like, is that Shakespeare? But apparently it's just a movie that Walt Disney did based on a book. But that really perfectly describes the situation we're in right now. We're losing a war that we're not supposedly even in. And we're seeing our European allies crumbling under the pressure. We're just now getting word that apparently the mystery of who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, that has been solved apparently, and apparently it was Ukraine. And Germany is really upset about it. So much so that they've cut off all defense spending. They've cut off all future military aid to Ukraine. And basically we're seeing the European Union starting to fracture. Our NATO allies are starting to go to war with each other. Now the question is whether we should actually be at war with Ukraine as opposed to how much assistance should we be giving them. We got all sorts of other stuff happening that is extremely suspicious, and just the gaslighting out there is beyond the pale. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and these are the mainstream media black holes. These are the holes that they don't cover, they won't talk about. They may touch on and just kind of move on, or they frame them in the ways that they want to frame them. Let's start off with this Nord Stream pipeline thing. We've had a lot of suspicions out there that the CIA was involved, and that may still be true. The CIA and special operations may have assisted these guys, but apparently the word is that apparently Zelensky was contemplating this and planning the attack on the Nord Stream pipeline. Just to give you some context, the Nord Stream pipeline was taking Russian natural gas into Germany. They have a massive, at the terminal, at the end of the pipeline in Germany, they have basically a lot of their industry around this park. Some of the largest chemical plants in the world at the end of this pipeline, using the natural gas energy and it as a resource to turn into all sorts of chemicals, just this massive chemical plant. Ludwigshafen, right? I believe that's it. But that's a massive industrial thing. When we talk about what percentage of the energy of all of Germany is used up in these plants, we have car plants and everything like that. And so when this pipeline was blown up, that really was an attack on the industry of Germany. Now they have used United States natural gas coming in on ships to kind of supplement that. There was also another pipeline coming in that was able to pick up some of the slack. And so they've been able to keep those industries operational. But this was really, and we said it from very beginning, even though the United States was like, oh, this must have been Russia blowing up its own pipeline. That Nord Stream pipeline was keeping Germany dependent upon Russia. And so cutting that link allowed Germany more flexibility in being anti-Russian. And so we could see from the very beginning, it's not in Russia's interest to cut that pipeline. It's their own pipeline, right? So who else was behind it? And people started pointing the finger at the U.S. CIA and other special operations, whether this was ordered at the highest levels with the United States or whatever. And some people did start kind of pointing the finger over at Ukraine. But now we're seeing the information coming out. It seemed like it was initially greenlit by Zelensky, but then he decided to back out of it, decided, no, we really shouldn't do this because if we get caught doing this, this is going to make a lot of people really angry. And apparently the general that was in charge of it just moved forward anyway and did it on a small scale, and they did it. So I don't know. All I know is that Germany is very upset. Germany has cut off all Ukrainian aid. They will not give any more. Meanwhile, we have on the other side of the spectrum, we have the Baltic states. You got Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, all like, let's send troops to Ukraine. They're ready, and they don't want to do it alone, though. They want other countries to be participating in this, too. They want to send troops into Ukraine to support the war effort against Russia. Of course, with Ukraine invading Russia, that adds a whole different complexity to things. And as I've stated before, we're seeing this move into Kursk may have been a very big strategic blunder. And while it did get the Ukrainians feeling like, yeah, we're on it, and getting their Western allies to feel like they're getting something for their weapons and everything like that put in there, the problem is that while there were some concerns inside Russia, some people like, well, maybe we shouldn't be in Ukraine. The reports coming out of Russia now are like everyone is extremely upset. The Russians as a whole are extremely upset. And I know that was the point of this invasion, was to get the Russians upset, make them feel vulnerable. But the problem is now everyone in Russia feels vulnerable, feels violated, and now feels like this is not just some expedition to some other country. Like the United States, when we invaded Iraq and we invaded Afghanistan, everyone was kind of like, maybe we should be there. But then again, it's not like existential to us. Like if the United States continental was actually invaded, I mean, that would be a whole different discussion. We wouldn't be like having a philosophical conversation about it anymore. We'd just be like, everyone needs to fight right now. If we want to exist as a country, we need to push these invaders out. And that's what's happening over in Russia right now. They are, by and large, all going in on this. Before, the operation in Ukraine was relatively popular, but now apparently this has now gone off the scale. Russians have this innate terror, this complex about being invaded. This was why they went into Ukraine in the first place, is because they were fearing invasion. And now Western weapons, Western trained, and potentially even some Westerners have gone and invaded Russia. This is their darkest fears now realized. And it's probably going to play into Putin's hands. We're not even talking about the tactics of this. I've had concerns about this all along, that the Russians will be able to cut off these attacking forces, trap them on Russian soil, and then destroy them completely. That's the tactical situation. I don't know if that's going to work out or not for Russia, or will Ukraine be able to punch back out or even hold their ground where they are. I don't know. That's all very unclear right now on what's actually going on the ground. How many troops did Ukraine commit? How much equipment? All this kind of stuff like that. Is Russia gaining ground? Is Russia still losing? I don't know. But strategically, we are seeing that the Russian social media is on fire with reports of Ukrainian atrocities against Russian civilians. Is that true? I don't know. Is there some truth to it? Possibly. I don't know. Is it all just Russian propaganda? Possibly. But the Russian population seems to be eating it up. So Germany is like, we're out. And Germany, of course, being the financial hub of Europe, they control the purse strings, and other countries are going to follow suit. Italy has already said that they don't want to be involved anymore. And then we have these interesting stories coming out. Last week, Donald Trump's aircraft had an emergency landing. And then just this past week, J.D. Vance's aircraft had to do an emergency landing. What are the odds? What are the odds that both the president, I won't call him president-elect, the former president, and the Republican nominee for vice president, both of their aircraft have emergency situations that they need to do an emergency landing on. With the recent attempt on the former president's life, I mean, we're a little sensitive to that, aren't we? That sounds highly suspicious to me, and I imagine to all of us. Well, before we go, we got a couple more topics to cover. Inflationary storm of what's going on and some of that. But then the real big thing I want to make sure you hang around for is we're going to talk about the hacking of the Social Security numbers, and we're going to give you some practical steps that you can take today to make sure that accounts aren't opened in your name. So we're getting into that. Let's hop into this inflationary storm. This has become a big battleground now, with Kamala Harris coming out and basically saying that she recognizes that the inflation is a real problem for Americans, and she's proposed price controls. Now, price controls they work at controlling the price, but they do that to the detriment of supply. When you have price controls, supply disappears. It's basic economics. If you're going to force me to sell my product at this level and it costs me this much to make, or even if it costs me the same to make that you're forcing me to sell it at, I'm still going to be losing money, okay? Because I still have to pay for the factories that I built and all this kind of stuff like that. There's some overhead that you're probably not taking into account. I'm probably still losing money. Even if I don't make any money at all, what's my incentive to making this product? My incentive is then to just idle my factories, work on my factories, repair them until the market breaks. Or focus my factories on producing products that are not price controlled. This is what happens every single time. They've tried it in Venezuela, Cuba, Soviet Union. Everywhere they try this, it doesn't work. Why not? Because there's no incentive for people to make the products. People aren't morally obligated to work for no pay. And when you try to do that, it doesn't work. It may work at first, but it doesn't work after a bit. You start seeing empty shelves like you've never seen them before. And then on the other side of things, Donald Trump is saying basically this is caused by out-of-control spending, which is absolutely true. We're seeing the inflation rate in Argentina has been dropping radically because they've cut their deficit. They now have a surplus in their government. Their government is now bringing in more money than it's spending. And so they're able to start attacking their debt, and this has caused inflation rate to drop dramatically in Argentina. We're seeing that cutting spending, getting that under control, is going to really significantly impact inflation. Is that possible in the United States? I don't know if it is. We may have already gone off the cliff, but trying is better than not trying, right? Okay, let's get into what you can do about this hack. So 2.7 billion records were stolen. No, 2.9 billion records were stolen. 2.7 billion were released for free on the dark web. Anyone who went to these files and just downloaded them could access them. I don't recommend doing that, friends. If you do that, you will probably be on the government's radar. They have ways of knowing what you've done on the internet. They are tracking you at all times. So you trying to find these files and then you actually downloading these files will put you on the record. But 2.7 billion records. Basically, we're hearing that basically every single American, their Social Security numbers have been leaked. What can you do about it? First off, I'm going to say this. Nobody knows what's going to happen now. This is unprecedented. This is absolutely insane. Do they have enough information on you to open up a credit card in your name? Quite possibly. And if that's the case, what can you do about it? There are 3 credit bureaus. There's TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. All three of these bureaus are non-government. They're private companies. But what you can do is you can freeze your credit. Okay? And what you can do is you can go to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian for free. Do not choose the paid options unless you want to pay for stuff. You should be able to, you can go in. I just did this. I've been on Experian for a while, using it to just kind of track my credit score and everything like that. And so for me, in Experian, all I had to do is just click the little freeze button, and I froze my credit. Then I went on Equifax and TransUnion, and I signed up for those. It took me about 5-10 minutes. Basically, you just fill in your information. Trust me, they already have all your information, so it's already in there. And then you give them your phone number. They text you a little code. You type in the code, and then you can freeze your Equifax and your TransUnion accounts free. You don't have to pay any money for this. Once you've frozen those, just be aware that when you do apply for a credit card or a loan or a car loan or something like that, you need to log back in and unfreeze them temporarily so that the credit can go through, and then you can reset them to freeze or whatever. So what this will do is that if anyone tries to open a credit card in your name, the credit card company or the loan company will go to pull your credit report, and Equifax, TransUnion, Experian will say, no, it's frozen. We can't give you that report. And without that report, they can't open the line of credit in your name, right? So that's what I would suggest doing. That's what I've done for me. I'm not selling you a product. It's free, completely free to do. Go on these websites and do that. Once again, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Just type it into search bar. I'll put that down in the pinned comment down below. And just go to those things, freeze your accounts. If you're not planning on opening up a credit card, opening up a line of credit in the next little bit, go ahead and freeze all of them. Just remember that you do need to unfreeze them if you do want to apply for a credit card or apply for a loan of some sort. But you can do that and then just turn it back into frozen again. I don't know if this is going to be a major problem where everyone's going to get scams going on against all of them, or what's going to happen, but this is a practical step that I'd suggest taking. It doesn't cost you anything. It costs you a little bit of time, but could save you a lot of headache, because the idea of going back and trying to prove that this wasn't you that got this line of credit out and borrowed all this money is going to be a nightmare for you. You can pay for subscription services to track all this kind of stuff, or you can just go on there for free and just hit the little toggle switches, turn them off, and then not have to worry about it. I'd suggest doing that, but we're all adults here. You can do whatever you want. All right, friends, hopefully that was useful, helpful. If it was, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys again later. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report.